In this pattern cutting tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make a McQueen inspired panelled bodice. So we're going to start off with the front of the basic block, and I'm just going to draw on the grain line there, and I'm going to put that on the fold. And then we're going to trace off our bodice block, and I'm going to rotate that big shoulder dart into the waist. So we're going to have one big dart. So start off by tracing off the neckline. I'm going to get to that first leg of the dart, and I'm going to put my finger on the BP and rotate it. I'm going to go round the armhole, get to the bottom, get to that first leg. I'm going to just fill that part in, and there you can see we've just got one big dart at the bottom of the bodice. So now we need to add on the panels. You're the pattern designer here, so it's up to you exactly where the panels go. If you're a bit unsure, you could put the bodice block onto the mannequin and just roughly sketch them on with a pencil. But I'm just going to decide myself, and I'm going to just draw on some lines where I think it would look nice. And it's very important that one of those lines goes straight through the BP. So I'm kind of finding the center of that part, and I'm going to have a slight curve on that line, and then we've got one more line to do after that. I'm not doing it exactly the same as the McQueen one, I'm just inspired by the McQueen one. And I'm going over these with a Sharpie just so you can see how this all works. You should work in pencil. So now I'm going to cut it out, and I've made a full pattern here because I want to show you what this looks like on the mannequin, so you can see how this works. Part that's going into the waist, and then I need to do the armhole and the neck as well. I'm going to trace the lines through to the other side so you guys can see what it looks like whenever I put it onto the mannequin. Currently this has no seam allowance, we're going to add that at a later date. So it's easy for me to see those lines because I used a Sharpie. And we just want to check that the panels are in the right place. So I'm just going to close up those darts with some sellotape. Both sides. And there you can see what it looks like a bit already. So we've maintained the fit of the original bodice, but we've added in all the seam lines. So now all we have to do is to add the seam allowances, but before I do that I need to first of all give myself some balanced notches, so that when I come to sew it back together again, it's easy for me to put it together, and also to mark up all of the pieces. I also need to add on the grain line at this point. So the grain line runs parallel with the center front. So I'm just doing a 90-degree angle from there, and then I can find the grain line for all of the pieces by putting the 90-degree angle on top of that line. So that's the grain line for that one. The first one, obviously the grain line is the center front. This is the other grain line, so obviously the grain lines are a little bit different now compared to before. So it's important that you get them before you cut everything up. And then you just need to pop your little arrows on the bottom. And now we're going to cut it out, and we're going to add the seam allowances into those new seams that we've created. So obviously that great big dart is now going to get swallowed up into that seam, so we might need to just smooth off that little corner where the BP is, because we've got a little bit of a point there, but we can do that later whenever we're sorting out the seam allowances. So we're just cutting off the final piece. So now it's time for us to add the seam allowances. So I'm just going to use some scrap paper and stick down all of the pattern pieces and add the 0.5 centimeter seam allowance. Obviously I don't need to put it on the center front because that's on the fold. And also when we're making a toile for a bodice, we don't put any seam allowance around the neckline. So just adding 0.5, obviously if this was full size, I would add 1 centimeter. And make sure when you do it as well that you bring your notches right through to your seam allowance so that you can mark them whenever you get to cutting out. So I'm not putting any seam allowance on the neckline, and I'm just going to continue adding seam allowance to all of the pieces, cut them out. So just cutting all the pieces out now. Just want to show you what the pattern looks like when it's completed. So front 1, 2, 3, this is number 4, and we've also got to do number 5, which is the armhole. So that's us completed now, and that's what it would look like as a finished piece.